A well-regulated militia be necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. No, by the way, the beard has not been trimmed. I just wanted you to be able to read the shirt, so I had to tuck the beard there into the collar. Welcome. So glad that you're with me today. Coming up on the program here in just a matter of moments, we're going to be talking with House Minority Leader Delegate Todd Gilbert of Virginia about this upcoming special session in the Commonwealth. So we talked about this a little bit last week with Philip Van Cleve, who is the head of the Virginia Citizens Defense League. By the way, we have an update on a lawsuit brought by the VCDL and Gun Owners of America we'll get to in a moment as well. But had the opportunity yesterday to spend a few minutes with Delegate Gilbert talking specifically about this upcoming legislative session. We don't know a whole lot, to be quite honest. We don't even know the date that this special session is going to be held. Originally, this was supposed to be to deal with budget shortfalls in the Commonwealth of Virginia because of the coronavirus concerns. Now, the good news if you live in Virginia, it looks like those budget shortfalls are not as severe as lawmakers were originally anticipating. The bad news is that perhaps now that gives lawmakers in the Democrat-controlled General Assembly the ability to go a little further afield in their special session than they might otherwise have done had they been forced to confront really steep budget cuts. So now Governor Ralph Northam is talking about, let's add some police reform measures in there. You've got other delegates who are talking about, wouldn't it be great if we, revived this so-called assault weapons ban? Let's do that too. We don't know, again, for sure whether or not we're going to see new gun control bills come up in August. But the expectation at this point is that, yes, Democrats are coming back in Virginia for another go at Governor Ralph Northam's gun ban, magazine ban, suppressor ban. We talked about that and more with Delegate Todd Gilbert. We'll get to that in just one second, but do have an announcement before we get to that interview. President Trump has a huge announcement for his top supporters. He'll be celebrating the 2020 Republican National Convention this summer, and he wants you to enter for your chance to win, to join him at the convention. If you win, the team will cover the flight, hotel, give you VIP passes for yourself and a guest, and all you have to do is text ARMS to 88022 today for your chance to meet President Trump at the convention. Again, that is ARMS, A-R-M-S. You know how to spell that, right? Bearing arms. ARMS. Just text ARMS to 88022 to enter to win this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be President Trump's special guest, paid for by Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated. So we'll get to that lawsuit about VCDL and GOA here in just a minute or two after we talk with Delegate Todd Gilbert. But right now, take a look and a listen to our interview about this upcoming special session and what gun owners in Virginia and really across the country need to be keeping an eye on. Delegate, it's good to talk with you today. Thanks so much for coming on the program.
Glad to do it.
So what do we know at this point about this upcoming special session that has been rumored for August in Virginia?
Well, not a whole lot, to be honest. But what we do know, if anything, is that the gun-grabbing left will stop at nothing and miss no opportunity to come after everything we hold dear, and we certainly believe that will be the case again. I have seen some written material that suggested that gun control would absolutely be on the agenda when the special session convenes here in a month or so.
Now, this session was originally planned to deal with budget shortfalls, right? I mean, you've got the coronavirus closures, declining tax revenue. I know that localities are starting to get hit hard around the country. The state of Virginia is no exception, right?
Right, absolutely. No, I don't think we're in as bad a shape as we suspected we would be from a budget standpoint, but this you're right, this entire special session, and the legislature in Virginia only meets 2 months out of the year, and I joke with people that when they're surprised by that you're lucky we're not there all year or you'd really be in trouble. But more and more we've had these special sessions, and this year it was about the budget. And when all this stuff started happening across the country, all this chaos involving police reform and defunding the police, they decided to throw that into the mix as well. So I think on piggybacking off of that type of legislative agenda, they're going to throw gun control into the mix yet again.
And it's interesting to me because I've written about this over the past, 6 weeks or so. I think there's a real contradiction for Democrats right now between the
absolutely.
defund police movement and gun control. Because every one of these gun control laws that Democrats want to put on the book in the state of Virginia requires enforcement by police. And yet they're complaining that police are the problem. You've got gun control groups saying that police violence is gun violence. And yet they apparently want to double down on empowering the police to go after Virginians for things like owning an AR-15 or owning a 20-round magazine or, selling a gun to their brother or their neighbor without going through a background check. They want to criminalize the Second Amendment. At the same time, they want to defund the police.
Yeah, well, let them never be bound by their own internal contradictions, because that doesn't seem to stop them. I mean, yeah, everything you just said, and then the narratives that we've constantly heard. You don't need a gun. You don't need to protect your family. You just call the police, right? If you need help, just call the police. Well, now the very same people, the call the police crowd, are the same ones trying to defund the police, diminish the police, make it harder for police to do their job, disincentivize people even going into that profession in the first place or remaining in it. At every turn, they appear to be after the profession of law enforcement. And so, who are you going to call? And then on top of that same crowd, when we talk about schools, they were full throated in support of having police protection in our schools just a few years ago, and now there's a new narrative developing where they want the police out of schools and away from children, and it's mind-boggling how they believe that's a winning narrative for them, and that's fine by me if they want to have that narrative. What I get concerned with is that narrative becoming public policy. Absolutely.
It can't be ignored that we've got an election coming up in November. One might think that would cause Democrats in control of the state legislature of Virginia to maybe, try for some sort of moderation in the special session, but it really doesn't sound like that's the case. I mean, it sounds like they are just ready to go, all out here in an assault on our Second Amendment rights, going after law enforcement, and giving Virginians plenty of reasons to go to the polls in November.
I think moderation is a thing of the past with the Democratic Party in Virginia and across America, and they seem to have given in to the very Marxist-driven base that is causing such chaos across the country. I think they do it at their own peril, and I'm not so concerned about the health of the Democratic Party going forward as I am that very extreme leftist narrative taking hold in public policy. And again, to your original point, moderation doesn't seem to be in the cards right now. So we remain very concerned and very vigilant about what they're trying to accomplish here in Virginia. And I think it should be a wake-up call to the rest of the country when they watch what's going on here, that they need look no further than their own local Democratic Party to see what's coming.
Earlier this year, during the regular legislative session, Senate Bill 16, House Bill 961, that was Governor Northam's gun ban, magazine ban, suppressor ban. It passed out of the House after it was modified further in the Senate in an attempt to get Democrats on board. There were 4 state senators who were Democrats who voted against that measure. This is obviously the centerpiece of Governor Northam's gun control agenda. He's talked repeatedly about bringing this bill back. Have you heard, is that a possibility for the special session? And what, if any, sweeteners might Democrats offer their colleagues in the Senate to get them on board with this bill when they rejected it just several months ago?
I think if they do gun control in the special session, there's no question that a semi-automatic rifle ban in some form and a magazine ban in some form is going to be submitted, because they checked off all the other boxes during the regular session. 1 handgun a month is now law again. Universal background checks, The red flag law became law. So all these things, and even they gave localities control over passing their own local gun control legislation. So, yeah, they checked off all the boxes already, and so the only remaining boxes they have is their real what they really want is to start banning types of firearms and magazines. So I do see it coming. I don't know how it plays out. They did water it down repeatedly to try to get the last remaining folks to vote for it. So I don't know what they might do, if they would just start with a watered down version or if they try the whole thing all over again. But it's coming in one form or another, Cam, and we just have to be ready. And I think they think that they're going to catch the public asleep because it is a special session and not in the normal course of business. So we just have to raise the alarm and make sure gun owners are engaged as they would be during the regular legislature.
Well, I talked with Philip Van Cleve of the VCDL late last week. Already, when I talked to him, I guess it was Friday, 11,000 people had contacted their lawmakers through a online portal that VCDL had set up. I imagine that number is going to continue to grow. We saw 20, 30,000 gun owners in downtown Richmond back in January for the Lobby Day rally against these gun control measures. I don't know if we can get that many folks back down in Richmond in August. It was freezing cold that day in January. It might be blazing hot in August. But gun owners are, across the state of Virginia. I think we are awake. I think we are aware of what's going on. I think that we saw that in even the local elections in the state of Virginia back in May of this year, when you had the anti-gun city council in Stanton get ousted, a pro-gun majority put in place. So I think that gun owners, we are paying attention right now. I don't think they're going to catch us asleep at the switch. But in terms of the general public, the people who are not ordinarily that invested in what their legislature is doing, you're right. A special session in the middle of summer. Some folks may be on vacation. Some folks may be stuck at home, not able to go to work. You're right. I'm not sure how many folks are going to be actually paying close attention to what the Democrats are doing in a special session.
Well, and you can make sure that even though every manner of violent, destructive protest has been allowed by our governor and the mayor of Richmond, that they will make sure to use this pandemic as a reason to not allow law-abiding gun owners to gather like we did 20,000 strong plus, to my recollection, during session. I think, in terms of people being engaged and fired up, the one thing they do, I think, at their peril, even in a changing political landscape like Virginia, is get gun owners good and fired up again right before an election. So, you mentioned those city council local races that happened in the spring where people were fully engaged and where entire local governments changed hands because of the way they voted on gun control issues, especially the sanctuary city, sanctuary county 2A resolutions that went through. So if the Democrats want to get our entire base of gun owners engaged and activated and motivated, they do that at their peril 2 months before a national election.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Delegate, I do appreciate you joining us on the program today. When we do start to get some more information, we don't even know when this special session is going to be held, do we?
Not exactly. I think it's sometime late August, they keep telling us, but as soon as we know, I'll make sure to let you know, and we can focus everybody's efforts a little more sharply.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you for your time today, sir, and I look forward to talking again very soon. All right, so we are going to continue to pay very close attention to what is happening there in Richmond, and as we get details like, a start date for this special session, as we start to see bills dropping in the hopper for this special session, we will certainly let you know. But just a reminder again that the VCDL, if you are a Virginia gun owner, the Virginia Citizens Defense League has an online portal. If you go to vcdl.org, it's right there on the main page, where you can email your delegate, your state senator, and tell them no more gun control. As of last week, again, more than 11,000 Virginia gun owners had done this. I would love to see that number grow exponentially by the time that this special session gets started, and there is no time like the present to get involved. Now, speaking of Gun Owners of America and the Virginia Citizens Defense League, a state judge, circuit judge in Lynchburg, Virginia, on Tuesday decided that part of the state's new universal background check law is likely to be found unconstitutional and has issued a temporary injunction preventing this law from being enforced against 18, 19, and 20-year-olds in the state of Virginia. Under federal law, you've got to be 21 years of age in order to pass a background check and purchase a handgun at retail. Now, in the state of Virginia, you don't have to be 21 to own a handgun. You can own a handgun at the age of 18. However, this universal background check law that's now in the books of the state requires every gun sale in the state of Virginia to go through a background check, which is going to mean an automatic denial for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds who are trying to purchase a firearm through a private individual, but they have to go through a background check in order to do so. So the judge in this case yesterday said, yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's actually not going to withstand constitutional scrutiny. So if you're over the age of 20, then the universal background check law still is in effect for you in the state of Virginia. The lawsuit itself will continue. And don't be surprised if Governor Ralph Northam and Attorney General Mark Herring end up appealing this judge's decision that put a halt to background checks on private transfers or private sales of firearms for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. I would anticipate that is exactly what the governor and the Attorney General are going to do. But in the meantime, the way the law stands right now, if you're 18, 19, or 20 years old in the state of Virginia and you want to buy a handgun from a private individual, that does not have to go through a background check, because otherwise your right to purchase that handgun would be absolutely denied. If you are over the age of 20, then unfortunately that universal background check law does apply to you. How enforceable it's going to be, I think, again, I think it's going to be, and I've said this for months and months, I think this is a useless law. I don't think this is going to be enforced. I would be shocked if there were 5 cases filed in the state of Virginia over the next year dealing with violations of the universal background check law. I just don't see it happening. Because, for one thing, the law applies to sales only. So private transfers, if you gift somebody a firearm, you don't have to go through a background check. Okay. Well, unless police actually see this private transaction of a firearm taking place without a background check being conducted, I think it's going to be really hard for law enforcement to ever have enough evidence to charge anybody with violating this law. You've got the ability to say, listen, I didn't sell this gun. I gave this gun to somebody. And unless police can prove differently, either through receipts that they might discover or through text messages or something like that, it's virtually impossible for police to bring charges here. Now, I suspect that gun control advocates will, in the months ahead, look at the lack of prosecutions and say, gosh, we're doing something wrong here. What we need is a gun registration bill. We need to close the private transfer loophole and require private transfers of handguns and firearms to go through background checks as well. And they'll try to, add more restrictions to our right to keep and bear arms, again, with the intent, stated intent anyway, of stopping criminals from acquiring guns when they're ignoring not only the state's background check law, but the laws against, carjacking, home invasion, homicide. I don't know why gun control advocates would expect that this is going to be the one law that the criminals will follow, but that seems to be their bright idea at the moment. Now, before we get to today's armed citizen story, our good deed of the day and our recidivist report, one more reminder for you that President Trump has a huge announcement for his top supporters. He's celebrating the 2020 Republican National Convention this summer, and he wants you to enter for your chance to join him at the convention. If you win, the team will cover the flight, hotel, and give you VIP access for yourself and a guest. All you have to do is text ARMS to 88022 today for your chance to meet President Trump at the convention. Again, that is ARMS, ARMS, to 88022 to enter to win this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be a special guest. Paid for by Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated. All right, let's get to today's armed citizen story. our good deed of the day, our recidivist report. We're going to start there with a story out of Illinois, DeKalb, Illinois, where WLBK reports a man charged with murder turns out to on probation when that death took place over the weekend. DeKalb County Coroner's Office says 32-year-old Johnny Black Haygood was shot Sunday night, I believe, about 7:30 in the evening. The alleged gunman, 27-year-old Wayne Slater of DeKalb, Illinois, made his first appearance on Tuesday in court, where his probation status was discussed. WSPY says, according to court records, Slater was sentenced to 2 years probation in December of 2019 after pleading guilty to a charge of aggravated robbery. That's right. Violent crime. Slap on the wrist. He was also given a jail sentence equal to the 132 days that he had already spent behind bars while he was awaiting trial. He and another man were charged last year with robbing another man in DeKalb using a pellet gun. On Tuesday of this week, Judge Philip Montgomery set a hearing for later this week on a motion by prosecutors to hold Slater without bail until his trial. He's also been charged with theft and residential burglary, not connected to the shooting case. So amazing. Here you have a guy charged with aggravated robbery, takes a guilty plea to reduce charges, gets sentenced to, in essence, time served and a couple of years of probation. And who is shocked at this point that just a few months later, this same individual now charged with a variety of crimes ranging from burglary to theft to homicide? Again, if there are no consequences for violent crimes, guess what happens? Violent criminals decide that they can continue doing these things with absolute impunity. And until they're caught, until that crime that they commit is so heinous it makes headlines, they're generally right. They can get away with this time after time after time. All right, so on to our armed citizen story of the day. Story out of Cleveland, Ohio. I got to tell you, man, I much prefer these armed citizen stories when we're dealing with, humans who break into people's homes, humans who have the intent to kill, and you've got an armed citizen able to protect and defend their life. I really don't like these stories when people have to defend themselves against attacking dogs. I am such an animal lover, but in this case, it was a good thing that this gentleman was able to get a hold of his girlfriend's firearm, had to shoot and kill the pit bull that was attacking his pregnant girlfriend. According to Channel 5 in Cleveland, apparently the dog actually belonged to that woman. She was taking the dog for a walk. Woman says that the dog had never been aggressive before, but for whatever reason, the dog turned and attacked her. According to News 5 in Cleveland, the man told officers he was coming home and he saw his girlfriend across the street walking the dog when it turned and attacked her. He said that she kept trying to push the dog off, but it continued to attack. He said he then ran over and he tried to stop the dog, but he couldn't. So he ran inside, grabbed a firearm that belonged to his girlfriend, and shot and killed the dog. When police interviewed the woman in the hospital, she was taken to the hospital, by the way, in serious condition because of her injuries. She told officers she had never had any issues with the dog being aggressive before. She could not understand why the attack happened. She's being treated right now for lacerations and puncture wounds to both of her arms, her legs, and to her abdomen as well. Looks like she's going to recover. Thankfully, the baby is okay. And again, a scary situation, not one where I think anybody's really cheering about this, but at the same time, very glad that this woman was not more severely injured or perhaps even killed. And that's because this man was able to get a hold of a firearm and use it to defend his girlfriend. Finally today, our good deed of the day from the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Oh, I bet it's beautiful there this time of year. We've gone in years past, but I don't think we're going to be able to make it this summer. A good Samaritan using a boogie board to save a man from a rip current in Oak Island, North Carolina. And I will say those rip currents can be pretty strong in the Outer Banks. So this was, again, a case of being in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Brian Schmidt says the gut and the heart just told me to get out there and help. He said, I've grown up around water and pools, but I hadn't had to experience that type of swim before. Schmidt is not a native of the Outer Banks. He was there with family and friends. He says, I was carrying the boogie boards and chairs. We were going to sit that day. I dropped the stuff off, grabbed the right boogie board, and then I saw the gentleman in the water. He says he was able to see people struggling. He said it was just one of those gut reactions, and I was glad to have a flotation device with me when I went out there. So he hopped in the water and was able to rescue this person, bring her back to the beach. Oak Island Water Rescue Chief Tony Young says, we almost had a tragedy with one of our rescuers yesterday because he didn't bring a float with him. He said now he saved one person and got her back to the beach and then went back for the second, just ran out of stamina. And that is when Brian Schmidt showed up with his boogie board. The chief says, listen, people help people, so if someone's in trouble, you're going to go. So make a plan before you set foot on the sand. And the chief also says, listen, if there's a red flag warning at the beach, that means stay out of the water. The rip currents are fierce. If it's a yellow flag, be very careful. But if it's red, he says, just stay away. He said, we used to say, we understand you're going to get in the water, but try to stay knee deep or less. He said, yesterday we almost had a tragedy. They were standing knee deep in the water. Wave knocked them down. Rip current got them and pulled them out. And again, if it were not for the quick thinking, or if it was not for the quick thinking of Brian Schmidt, this story could have had a very unhappy ending. But thankfully, Mr. Schmidt in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. And we certainly thank Brian Schmidt for his very, very good deed. Now, that is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Town Hall Media, where, by the way, my colleague Katie Pavlich at Town Hall has an exclusive interview with President Trump right now, so be sure to check that out as well. Also, you can subscribe to Bearing Arms Cam and Company on Apple Podcasts. That way you never miss a program. We'll be back tomorrow with more of the day's top Second Amendment news and information. And, of course, be sure to check out BearingArms.com throughout the day for even more Second Amendment coverage. Until we talk again, be well, be safe, be free. And we'll see you soon with another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company.